here with second-year head coach now, Matt Beisel, to preview the 2017 cross-country seasons at Concordia. First, take a little bit of a look back at last year, and it was kind of a year for people to get comfortable with a little bit different situation. I'm sure there was a little bit of a feeling out process, and you'll have higher expectations as you move forward, but what was some of the value that you got out of that season last year?
I think one of the most important things to me is that I get to know my kids and they get to know me, because finding out things that you can't see it on paper, you don't know, you can look at it, you can figure out a few things from looking at results and stuff, but until you actually get to know the person and know what's going on in their life and know how they handle things, and then build a trust between you and them. And in my case, as a new coach, following a really great coaching situation, he's a great coach, Craig Einspar, of a new coaching style, a new system, and then getting them to learn to trust the system and to buy into it. So I think the value from this last year, we made a ton of progress. All of my distance kids ended up running PRs throughout the year, including track, and so there was a lot of improvement. And I think that that year was awesome because of that. And now we come into this year, me knowing these kids, me being able to give them appropriate summer workouts back in June based on what I knew of their history, and they've come into the season based on our early workouts in the best shape they've ever been in. So I think just that background knowledge. And then with the new kids, it's again the beginning of that building process, and them getting to know me and vice versa.
Now you've brought up the size of the roster quite a bit. What was that focus for you in really the first recruiting class that you really got to dive into?
Right. Whenever you have a depth in your roster, you're able to have a bigger gene pool to draw from, just from a pure performance standpoint, so that you're redundant in a way of, you've got these runners, but if one of them gets sick on a crucial day or one of them comes up with an injury, you have somebody that can step into their place. And you also have, I think the energy of a bigger squad is really, really exciting when you have all those people. And that means in distance running, when you're out on a run or you're doing mile repeats or you're doing some sort of challenging workout, it's not just you by yourself. It's you, and you have at least 1 to 2 other people, maybe more, who you can key off of, both in a competition but in a practice too. So I think that those are the advantages. And then in our conference, we've got a very competitive conference, one of the top ones in the U.S., and the kids I inherited are awesome last year. Great kids, and they're really going to be good this year. But we managed to place 6th for guys and girls in conference last year, and that was with 18 of our 20 kids running all-time personal bests at the conference meet. So with that in mind, as a new coach, that was valuable for me to go, oh, this is how competitive these other schools are. This is what we've got to get to if we want to break into that top 3 and really start making an impact and getting our teams to nationals.
As far as this preseason for you, the timeline has been moved up, just as far as getting your runners in sooner. What did you see as maybe the advantages to doing that and getting them on campus a little bit sooner?
I think the big things are that we have time when they're not running around and going to their first classes and things like that, where we have whole periods of time during the day where we can get to know each other, where we can do team activities. You can't run all day long as a distance runner. It's not like some other sports like volleyball. You can do 3 different practices a day and work on different elements of that. But with distance running, there's a finite number of steps you can take before fatigue hits or the training effect's no longer good. So we have scheduled a lot of fun team activities too. I think the big thing is we have a really big freshman roster. I want them and the returning kids to really get to know each other and to build those bonds before classes start and everyone gets busy. I want to be able to sit, and I have 40 kids on my roster, and I do a 30 to 40 minute goal meeting with each one. And it's a lot easier to do that when there are no classes going on than trying to squeeze it all in the remaining time periods. And so I think that's going to help with everything. Give me a chance to do more instruction, to get them into the weight room with Coach Berner and he has one-on-one attention with them to teach them technique. It was all more hurried last year when we came in right with all the other kids, and then all of a sudden we're doing classes. So it's been really helpful.
Well, you mentioned you bring in a large number of new athletes, but you do have several too that competed at the GPAC championships last year. I think the one that stands out just in terms of accolades is Emily Sievert, now Emily Deshane. We talked a little bit about the toughness she showed last year in competing through an injury, but what does her leadership do for this team?
She's invaluable. She went and got married this summer to a high school sweetheart from Frankenmuth, and he's an engineer up in Columbus. And so I think, when you get to that point in your life, she just brings a ton of maturity to my team as far as leadership from a Christ-centered perspective, from having a heart for the younger girls and being a good listener to them. I know she takes really seriously being a good role model to them. She talked with me about that at length, and she's going to do a great job. She's officially a team captain of ours for our ladies. As an athlete, she provides a role model for our younger girls to look at and say, I want to be able to do what she did someday, being able to make it to nationals multiple times, being able to make all conference in multiple events, both in cross country and track. So she is an extraordinary young lady, and I'm very blessed to have her on the team.
And when we look at some of the other returners on the women's side, what are you seeing with their progress this off season?
Are we talking on the girls?
Yeah. First.
Well, and this applies to both guys and girls. I gave them workouts to do based on everything. I was able to make a plan, and they did the workouts really well, because when we came back and did our first quality session on Friday morning, I gave them target times that are based off of their best times from outdoor track, and this includes my incoming freshmen, but they all hit their times or were like, I can't run that slow and I need to run faster. And that tells me right there that they did their training over the summer, and a lot of them talked with me and said that they've been able to get good work in. So I think that you look at, as going down the list, you look at Taylor Grove from Montana. She was, ran at nationals in the marathon. She is someone not to be counted out. She did have an incident where a dog knocked her off her feet during a training run this summer, so she's dealing with physical therapy to get that back. And so, but she's a competitor, and she's got people working with her. So my hope is, and my prayer is, that she gets her feet back under her and gets going again. So that's one of the question marks. But on the other hand, on the positive side, we have, for instance, JC Johnston, who is a returning junior, and she's from from Kansas, Rock Creek High School in Kansas, and she is in great shape. She just spent almost 4 weeks in China doing work at a school there, and I guess she was able to go out and train every day, so she's looking great. Abby Protzman's been getting good running, and she's another junior. We have Rebecca Henricks, our top returning freshman, who got good training in and is looking really good right now. We've got Erin Lindemann from Sidney, Nebraska, another returning. She was a freshman last year. So I think on just our returning girls, that's a really strong core group.
And if you could, with the men too, Pat Wortman and Thomas Taylor were the highest place finishers at GPAC, but what do you see from that group of returners?
Another group of guys that did their work this summer. I think of my top 4 guys, we have Pat and Thomas Taylor, and Colton Gabehart and Evan Ashe, not in any particular order. They all did their workouts. They all had a really great track season, and I think they're ready to rock. We have Cameron Mose, who was state champ in the 3200 in high school, who didn't have the best summer training because of some things that came up, but he is a guy who I know can come through and get the stuff done that he needs to, so I can see him being right there in the mix. So on the returning guys, those are our strongest ones. So that's kind of where we're sitting with those guys.
And with the freshmen, maybe you could expand a little bit upon what they bring to the table, and how much of a boost will they give your teams this fall?
Right. I think from just a personality standpoint, these are really great kids. I have really awesome returning kids, and what I'm talking is faith and values and a heart for other people, and these freshmen are just the same. I've seen some great chemistry happen as we mix these guys together, get them to know each other. They're doing fun stuff, and I think the culture of the team is just going to be just sizzling with positive energy. But bringing in the ladies again. Let's look at Alyssa Fye, Sydney Clark, Alyssa Beerwagon, Emily Boyer. Who else? Lydia Cook. I mean, there's just 5 girls right there, and I know I haven't listed them all. Taylor Geip, a couple others, who all have competed multiple years at the state level in cross country and track. Many of whom have made all-state, and they bring a huge amount of championship level experience to the table, and that's pretty exciting. And then I've got some girls who could develop. Then we look at the guys' side, and we've got probably our top 4 guys coming in right off the top are J.P. Reynolds from California, Christian Van Cleve from Colorado, Cody Williams from St. Louis, and Jordan Lorenz from Gretna High School here in Nebraska. All of those guys ran at a very high level last year and are going to bring immediate relevancy to our conference guys team. But then you have another tier of guys who ran well last year, who have had state experience. A lot of them, like Zach Potratz and Patrick Schneeberger. There's others I just can't think of them right now who could very well develop and really, Caleb Roberts from Kansas, who are like right there in the kind of the 17-minute, high 17s range with weight room and all that. They can develop, and so I am excited to see what all of these kids do, especially from the early indicators and the practices that we've had.
Now, last year I know you implemented team time as a way to get your teams to bond a little bit, and they went to a blood drive recently here this preseason. What other kind of things are you kind of trying to do to bond as a team?
Well, we helped with the blood drive. We went up. Sammy Superheroes is a foundation that raises pediatric cancer research money, and we went and helped out with the blood. We didn't give blood. We helped out. I don't want my aerobic kids giving up their hemoglobin at this point, but we helped out. Had a great time. We're going to go to the movies tonight together. We went swimming. We kind of reserved the Seward pool and had a great time last night. I know I've encouraged the older kids and the captains to organize things on their own, because I don't need to be involved with all of it. It needs to be kind of an ownership that they have. But I know last night there were a whole bunch of them playing cards and games until for 3 hours, it sounds like, and having a great time. And we also we did a big evening where I had them split up into guys and girls groups, and the older kids kind of led the meetings, and they came up with team goals for the year. We did one night of name games. I want them all to know each other's name. We're just things like that. I'm having them all over for a cookout at my house. As we move into the fall, we're going to join the track and field people, and I'll have just every Monday night a get together for the team where after the first few that are mandatory, where we're going to really focus on names and getting to know the new people. We're just going to do fun things. It might be a movie night. It might be a get together, a bonfire at my house. It might be just games in the thing. And so through the entire fall, we're going to do stuff like that, and I know the kids enjoy it.
And last thing is, as far as expectations, what do you talk about inside the program right now? Maybe it's just more at an individual level, but what kind of expectations are you guys talking about for this season?
Well, on an individual level, I'm having goal meetings right now, and all of these kids coming in, both the freshmen and the returners, they're talking very high level. They want to be good. They have very high expectations for themselves, and then if you look at GPAC relevancy and national relevancy, that's where we're headed. I went and did some research, and I put up on a PowerPoint and showed them the last 15 to 20 years of where our men and women have placed in the GPAC and where we've placed and competed at nationals. And we've had kind of a 5-year dry run where we haven't really done that much. And last year was probably our lowest placing ever, 6th place each. And so I think the big goal, everybody's fired up about wanting to get rid of that part of our history and move back to where we've been, which is top 3 at conference or higher. You know, winning conference is always the goal. And so getting out there and being able to compete with the best of the teams in the GPAC is our number 1 priority. And if that happens, then nationals is an automatic.